A very good morning, everyone. Welcome to StudyIQ English, your favorite UPSC platform in India. Let's discuss the important UPSC relevant news articles from the Hindu newspaper today, that is for 3rd September 2025. And once again, for today's newspaper, we have about 6 to 7 important articles. New developments are happening across international relations. New developments are happening within India's own constitutional controversy. Let's see what are these news pieces. While the first three need some detailed analysis, there are other four which are rather quick bites. So let's talk about these articles, and alongside we will also look at important prelims questions. Okay. So the first article on your screen is coming from editorial page, the Hindu New Delhi edition for today. And this article says India needs more women judges in the Supreme Court. So automatically, when we are talking about Supreme Court, we know that from your UPSC syllabus, this is GS paper 2. We are talking about governance and polity. We are talking about Supreme Court Collegium. And we are talking about appointment to the Supreme Court. So yes, this is GS paper 2. But the article is also saying India needs more women judges, which means we are also referring to another part of UPSC syllabus, that is GS paper 1, gender parity in India. So yes, we are talking about patriarchy and gender inequality. Okay, so these are the two broad areas from where it is coming. Very good morning, Bulbul. Very good morning, Shaggy. Very good morning, Nagulan. Let's see what is the key debate in this article. The article is saying on August 9th, if you remember, we were talking about this last week. August 9th, 2025, Justice Sudhanshu Dhulia, he had retired from the Supreme Court. Now, when he retired as a senior judge, we are talking about Justice Dhulia, it had created around 2 vacancies in the Supreme Court, okay? But rather than appointing a woman to these 2 vacancies, the President of India appointed Justice Vipul Pancholi and Justice Alok Aradhe to these 2 vacancies, okay? So, which were the 2 judges who filled up these vacancies? One was Justice Pancholi, the other was Justice Alok Aradhe. We have discussed how these 2 judges came from the High Courts of Patna and the High Courts of Ahmedabad in Gujarat. But no woman was appointed. So the article is saying the only woman judge in the Supreme Court right now, that is Justice Nagaratna. She and many other senior judges created a complaint. They said that this appointment of 2 judges, absolutely Shaggy, one from Bihar and the other from Gujarat, Justice Pancholi and Justice Aradhe, these 2 judges were appointed to the Supreme Court. And on August 9, Justice Dhulia retired. So these 2 judges filled up these vacancies. But other judges of the Supreme Court, including the only lady judge, Justice Nagaratna, objected to these appointments. They were not questioning the merit of these 2 justices, neither were they trying to in any way retaliate against presidential appointment. The reason why all the judges, including Justice Ratna, were against these appointments was because of 2 reasons. One, they felt that there is regional imbalance in the Supreme Court. In the past few years, more than 3 judges from Gujarat High Court have been appointed to the Supreme Court. This is raising an issue of regional imbalance. According to the Supreme Court collegium system, there has to be a regional imbalance and transparency when it comes to appointing judges to the Supreme Court. But here, repeatedly, judges from Gujarat are being appointed that threatens regional representation. For example, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, UP are one of the largest states. And despite that, Gujarat is getting too much importance when it comes to representation at Supreme Court. The other reason why they were unhappy was because they said the appointment of Justice Aradhe and Justice Pancholi to the Supreme Court is also bypassing the merit hierarchy. Their All India ranks were much below other judges who were in waiting line to get appointment to the Supreme Court. But they were not appointed. By bypassing the merit list, this appointment makes no sense. There was a third reason why this appointment was upsetting people, and this is about the debate of gender imbalance at the level of Supreme Court. So, despite the so much dissent and disagreement by Justice Nagaratna, the government did not do much about it. So, today we are asking a question. This article is raising a controversy. Too much executive importance being given at the Supreme Court level bypasses the meritocracy in Supreme Court, High Court, and the judicial system in India in general. It has triggered a debate about gender imbalance, lack of diversity when it comes to representing various states, genders, caste, religions at the Supreme Court level. Plus, it is also questioning the lack of transparency in judicial appointments. Absolutely. Absolutely, Shaggy. That's well said. So, the status of women. What is the status of women in the judiciary system in India? This is again something that we need to examine. Talking about women at the level of Supreme Court. Since 1950, let's understand, since 1950, only 11 women judges have been appointed to the Supreme Court out of 287 total women judges in India who were meritocratic and very senior. But despite that, only 11 of them were appointed. Second thing is they got appointment to the Supreme Court at such a late stage in their career that they could barely work in the Supreme Court for a matter of few months. Talking about September 2025, there is only Justice Nagaratna as the woman judge of the Supreme Court who is serving right now. Apart from that, there is no other lady. Even for Justice Nagaratna, if you look at her situation, her case, then she got appointment so late that in 2027, she is going to be the first, very important to remember, in 2027, Justice Nagaratna is going to become the first woman Chief Justice of India. But this is only for a period of 36 days because she was promoted so late in her career. Going back to 1989, that's when India had seen the first female judge at the Supreme Court. That was Justice Fatima Bibi. But she was an SC judge, that too long back in 1989. And since then, there has been no woman from the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe community. Now, Justice Fatima Bibi was from a minority community. But after that, we have never seen a woman from minority, from the scheduled caste background, OBC background, scheduled tribe background. For that matter, we have hardly seen women in the first place. Talking about directly from the bar, only one woman, Justice Indu Malhotra, was directly elevated to the Supreme Court from the bar, but this is in comparison very less because she was just one woman. At the same time, 9 men were promoted from the bar. So again, there is huge gender disparity here. Talking about constitutional dimensions, now which articles of the Constitution come under the picture here? Let's say this is Article 124. Under Article 124, the judges of the Supreme Court are appointed by the Indian President in consultation with other senior judges of Supreme Court and the Chief Justice of India. This also brings to light the collegium system. That collegium system is regulated by the Chief Justice of India plus 4 senior-most judges of the Supreme Court. And despite that, today we see lack of transparency in judicial appointments at the highest court in the country. This also brings into picture Article 14 of the Constitution. Under Article 14, every individual in India is entitled to equality before the law, irrespective of their gender, caste, creed, religion, or place of birth. But despite that, when it comes to judiciary, why are women, members of the minority community, members of the lower caste community, repeatedly bypassed in judicial representation? So therefore, the article is saying the problems are lack of opacity. There is no transparent criteria when it comes to judge selection. It's completely opaque. It's completely in the dark. Second thing is, while caste and religion and region are considered still as important criteria to be considered, it is often gender that gets most neglected when it comes to promoting judges on the basis of their seniority and experience. Women are always bypassed, despite the fact that they have been working at High Court level in a very senior position, and still hardly anyone makes it to the Supreme Court. And if they make it, like Justice Nagaratna has, then they make it so late in their career profile that she will only be serving for 36 days in 2027 as India's first woman Chief Justice. So these are certain issues I highlighted by the article. So if there is so much gender disparity at the Supreme Court level, is there something we can do to tackle the problem? Well, bringing women to the level of judiciary ensures substantive justice. Why substantive justice? Because there are two ways in which people are given reservation or representation. One is numerical, the other is substantive. By giving somebody a numerical representation, you are just giving them a reservation. For example, the 128th Amendment Bill, giving women 33% reservation at the Lok Sabha and state legislature level. This is just a numerical representation. You increase the number of people in a certain area. But that always does not lead to substantive empowerment, because substantive empowerment is about the real change which people in power will bring to the common people. This will be made possible if women who have more sensitivity towards gender problems such as domestic violence, workplace harassment, the glass ceiling effect, gender pay gap, sexual crimes, disparity in property inheritance. All these things will come better into light if women are leading at the judiciary level. Second thing is that India strongly believes in the principle of social diversity. From 1940s, we also believe in socialistic democracy, which means in our country, every community has the right to find representation in legislature, executive, as well as judiciary, both at the center and the state levels. And despite that, by ignoring women and members of the lower caste, we are completely trying to hit or violate this principle of equal representation. Now, again, this brings into picture Article 15 of the Constitution also, that yes, the government is entitled to provide women and the members of vulnerable communities special representation in the central government. Hence, we are also violating equality in employment under Article 15. Then, this is also very, very inconsistent, because Supreme Court is saying that it is mandatory to have gender quotas in the bar. While for Bihar High Court, the Supreme Court already made it mandatory to have quotas for women at the bar level. But when it comes to Supreme Court's own panel of judges, this principle is not getting respect and women are not finding way. So is there a solution? Yes, the first thing is we have to make it mandatory to have gender representation up to about 30 to 33% for women judges who have seniority and experience at the level of Supreme Court and High Courts. We need more transparent approach in the collegium system. While the collegium says that we have an approach of respecting seniority, merit and regional criteria, we still need more transparency in how collegium is working towards appointment of judges. Then we need to encourage more women to represent as senior advocates directly to the Supreme Court, High Court. We also need to provide these women early promotions on the basis of their merit. Because if they get late promotions, then by the time they reach the Supreme Court, it's already a little late for them. They barely get few months or few weeks to work as a full-blown justice at the Supreme Court level. So no policy change takes place. And then in the end, we also need to understand that today a major issue in front of our society is intersectionality. Intersectionality is about the fact that inequality can exist due to multiple criterias. A woman sometimes experiences disproportionate representation and marginalization, not only because she is a woman, but also maybe she's a woman from the lower caste background, tribal background, or she's coming from a very poor background. So, in that case, people, when given an opportunity to rise up to the important positions, they will create more role model impact for many others to do the same. Ultimately, our society will become genuinely diverse, genuinely a representative of intersectional differences among people. Now, talking about the collegium system, it's a panel level at the Supreme Court, where all the senior judges of the Supreme Court, including the Chief Justice and four other most senior most judges at the Supreme Court level, take decisions regarding appointment of the judges. Okay, so that is about the working of the Supreme Court. So this was the article, how to ensure gender equality at the Supreme Court level. Now let's have a look at the question for the day. We need to look at the following statements with regards to women representation at the Supreme Court. The first is, since its inception in 1950, ever since it was created, less than 5% of all the judges' appointment to the Supreme Court have been women. 2. Justice Fatima Bibi was the first woman judge of the Supreme Court of India. And 3. Justice B.V. Nagaratna is going to become the first woman Chief Justice of India. Though her duration, the tenure at office will be less than 2 months. So which of these statements do you think is or are valid? It's quite a direct question. If you have understood the article, you can try to answer. And I have placed the answers in the last slide. Now, the second article is also editorial page itself. This is page number 6. This is about a new change in India's foreign policy. Today, India has completely changed the way it deals with its neighbors. What's the reason? One reason is the 50% tariff announced by the Donald Trump government has created a disturbance in India-US bilateral relationship. Recently, US was also blaming India for financing the war in Ukraine. US said that India is behind the death of innocent people in the Ukrainian genocide. Why? Because India continued to import oil, gas from Russia despite US putting strict sanctions on Russia. Obviously, India did not agree to that. But today that has led to a little disturbance in the age-old India-US bilateral trade and other ties. Hence, India is now trying to diversify its trade partners. It is trying to find new markets for its exports. It is also trying to work towards other nations that it was neglecting for all these past years. Nations including the ones from South Asia, representing at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, representing at the ASEAN. Yes, India is trying a much better knot with countries like Japan, China, Russia, South Korea, Taiwan, Philippines. The reason is that yes, India needs more friends at a time when old friends have become enemies. So this article therefore belongs to GS paper 2 international relations, more particularly India US relations, India China relations. Apart from that, the article is also GS paper 3. Why GS paper 3? Because we are talking about trade agreements here. Okay, we are talking about free trade agreements, FTAs. So that is why this article is also GS paper 3. So let's see what the article says. Article is saying that India has made an unmistakable shift. This time, India's foreign policy has changed once again, and it is showing a clear-cut tilt towards SCO region. Absolutely, that's also correct. The fact that it was a clear-cut case of international hypocrisy, as you are highlighting very appropriately, Shaggy, there, that while US itself was importing oil and other things from Russia, it was countries like China and the EU countries, Canada, who continued to import from Russia, but single-handedly India was blamed for creating Ukrainian genocide. So that's why India refused to bend in front of the pressure, and we are now going the Atmanirbhar way. So what does this article at hand say? The article is saying that as our Prime Minister Shri Modi is visiting China right now, the Tianjin province, for attending the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This is after 2022 that our Prime Minister will be attending the SCO summit. Why is this SCO summit very special? It is special because for the first time, Indian Prime Minister and Chinese leader Xi Jinping are meeting together after the 2020 Galwan Valley clashes sponsored by China into India. after the prolonged line of control, debate, argument, disagreement between the two countries. They are meeting today and now they are creating new cords of friendship. Today, there is a clear shift in India's foreign policy from a foreign policy that was completely tilted towards West and West led regional groupings such as Quad, the Quadrilateral Dialogue comprising US, Japan, Australia, India. Then, of course, the G7 outreach from India, as well as we talk about the IPEQ. So, yes, India was showing too much favor towards the West, countries like America, UK, European Union, and also India was a key member, a key supporter of all the forums such as these, which are led by the Western countries. Today, there is a change in India's foreign policy. Now, India has become very skeptical after the shock that first US gave us, and yesterday, as we are also getting a little shock after the United Kingdom is saying that we are going to impose a heavy carbon duty on all the products that are imported from India. So India had huge hopes from benefiting into steel and aluminium trade with the UK under the newly signed free trade agreement. But today, as UK is insisting that Indian exporters to the UK will have to pay a heavy carbon duty, once again India is a little concerned. And now we are seeing a new foreign policy that is tilting towards SCO, RCEP, RCR. Yes, earlier India was a little concerned and skeptical of Shanghai Cooperation Organization because in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization SCO there is a clear-cut domination of countries like Russia and China. And Russia and China both are pretty anti-West. They have a very clear anti-US sentiment. Therefore, for a long time, India's engagement with ASEAN nations, which is also China dominated, the RCEP, again China dominated, and the SCO was a little sluggish. India was not very keen. But today in 2025, India is once again into fresh talks with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. There are various areas in which both the countries are having a mutual dialogue, such as disengagement along the LOC. Yes, both the countries are talking about breaking their infrastructure, especially Chinese infrastructure along the LAC, line of actual control. And yes, both the countries want to sort out the border dispute. India has made it clear that although we can be strong trade partners, but the border issue always will be a priority for us. Although China is not exactly agreeing, China is saying keep the border dispute separate and keep the trade talks very separately. So, today another agenda in which countries are talking about is yes, the boundary resolution on fast track, restoration of economic and trade links with each other that had suffered post corona shutdown. And of course, they are talking about issuing new visas to Indian and Chinese nationals, businessmen, students. We are also talking about direct flights once again operating at full swing between both the nations. So, yes, clearly there is an improvement in the relationship. So this also highlights India's new strategic autonomy. Now, long back during the non-aligned movement led by Jawaharlal Nehru, even during that time, India had a huge pressure whether to support Soviet Union led bloc or whether to actually support the American or the US led bloc. But back then, India said that we want to continue with the non alignment because we have our own interests as a newly independent country to take care of, and we cannot afford to make just one friend and have enmity with others. Today, once again, the same sentiment is around the corner. India once again believes in multilateral attitude. But this time there is a change from the earlier non alignment. Now, that non alignment of the 1950s and 60s was out of a compulsion. India was not a strong economy that time. We had a very, very poor foreign exchange rate income. We had a very, very slow GDP output. We did not have any food security. The defense was also not galvanized. Talking of 2025 India, now we are a very different nation now. Imagine India being the third largest economy of the world soon. India's military, the third largest military across the world. Indian exports higher than $48 billion. The GDP growth already crossing 7%, much more than the previous quarters. So this is the new India, which is quite empowered. It has a very strong position in South Asia. So today, it is not exactly non-alignment. Today, it is about strategic autonomy. That India clearly says we are not going to blame Russia for the Russia Ukraine war openly through signing a protocol at the United Nations Security Council. Not because we do not want the war to end, not because India doesn't support the genocide in Ukraine. Yes, India has sent help to Ukraine repeatedly. India has spoken to Putin of trying to de escalate the violence, but India will do what suits its economic interests the best. Similarly, India did not sign up any formal protocol criticizing America for trying to bombard Iran's nuclear arsenal. India has not come out openly and criticized Israel in writing for continuously shooting and attacking the Gaza region. Not because we support the war, because today the new India's priorities have changed. We are not being non aligned because we don't have an option. Today we believe in strategic autonomy. We know that we have to take care of our own interest as a growing economy today. And even after the 50% tariff attack by the Donald Trump administration, India has not said that India US are friends no more. It is not a strategic breakup with the US. Yesterday itself, in fact, Indian government has said that fine, it is a temporary halt in the relationship. It is a bad patch. But it doesn't mean that India US do not share other non-trade relationships. India has its highest diaspora, highest number of Indian NRIs, people of Indian origin, are living in the US. They are running key positions over there. India US has huge collaboration in defense, military ties. So why should India believe that this small tariff attack is enough to break the relationship? India is playing very smart right now. But at the same time, because we have been backstabbed on the tariff front, yes, we will go ahead and have a good friendship with China and Russia as well. We know that after the Russia Ukraine war, Russia and China once again have emerged as major friends. Their relationship is better than ever today. So why should India continue its bitter relation with China? India cannot afford to lose Russia at all. So therefore today we do not want to align only with the US, only with the EU or UK, or we do not also only want to ally with the bloc led by Russia and China. Hence, we are playing it very, very autonomous. We are playing it very diplomatically. There is Russia, which India cannot lose, despite Russia's genocide in Ukraine. At the same time, India cannot use US again. So Indian government is saying we will see our benefit from wherever it comes, whichever leads to giving us more strategic autonomy, more security, we will take that route. On that note, what were the outcomes achieved at the much awaited Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit? Well, it led to the very well known, this is making news right now, the Tianjin Declaration. This led to the Tianjin Declaration of 2025, just signed yesterday and day before yesterday. What are the key agendas? One agenda is that today, according to the optics, the elephant and the dragon are becoming friends again. Yes, we are metaphorically referring to India and China. We know that China and Russia have together agreed to completely condemn the Pahalgam attacks created by the non state terror actors. But at the same time, China and Russia are also being very diplomatic. They have also condemned not only the Pahalgam attack but also the attack on Pakistani army done by Balochistan Liberation Organization in Balochistan. At the same time, all these countries sat together and spoke about the Gaza crisis. Russia, China, India, all of them say that yes, it is high time Israel US joint attack on the Gaza region, Palestinian people should stop. Yes, we need to have some solution like the two-state solution where people from Palestine also get their some sovereignty in that area. Under SHIPI, Shanghai Cooperation Organization has also spoken about creating a new SCO development bank. This proposal was also spoken about. Now, much recently, the BRICS Bank was also in the news when everyone was talking about de-dollarization. So remember, for your GS paper 2 and 3, it's an important development. The prospect in future of having an SCO development bank. Once again, it will be a threat to the US and dollar domination. At the same time, all these countries are also saying that we will support each other in completely standing against any extremism, any terrorism, or any kind of secessionist, separatist activities going on within our respective territories. Yes, they will try to build better bilateral trade with each other. So a new trio has emerged: India, Russia, China. But at the same time, India is taking this with a pinch of salt because they say once burnt, twice shy. Once backstabbed, you cannot trust anybody blindly. And see, China again is giving some confusing signals here. Now, look at this. China is even today blocking the United Nations Security Council reform. It is not promoting India's membership to the UNSC on a permanent basis. Similarly, the NSG membership. It is not vouching for India's NSG membership, the Nuclear Suppliers Group. At the same time, China is trying to protect Pakistan based terrorism. China has never said openly, neither has Russia said, that the attack on Pahalgam was not only because of the non state actors of terror, but all these actors were actually operating from Pakistan. No wonder India had to do Operation Sindoor that time, but none of them spoke about them. They are not even trying to push for any UNSC sanctions on Pakistan. Nobody is asking to put stronger sanctions on Pakistan, neither Russia nor China. At the same time, all the countries are together saying that China will expand its Belt and Road Initiative. Plus, China will also expand its CPEC initiative. Remember that the BRI, the Belt Road Initiative, and the CPEC, it passes through Pakistani region and connects China with the West Asia. In between, it is trying to trespass Indian territory. So therefore, it is violating India's sovereignty. But despite that, no country said anything about it. So yes, India has its own concern to worry, reasons to get worried. But yes, we are also on a very, very smart diplomatic front. Try to build more partnership through trade, dialogue, and border security. So let's see how this relationship today and tomorrow evolves through. Okay, very good morning, Ashish. Okay, let's look at the question now. Consider the following statements regarding Shanghai Cooperation Organization. One, the SCO was originally founded in 2001. Although UPSC will not ask you such questions in terms of dates and years, they don't. But it's a good revision exercise, so we should know that SCO was originally founded in 2001 with China, Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan as its founding members. Two, India Pakistan became full members of SCO in 2017. Very important point. Three, at the 2025 Xinjiang SCO declaration, India expressed support for China's Belt and Road Initiative for the first time. Easy question. Please pick out the valid option by looking at the codes below. And you can post your answer here. You can also self-check your answer through the last slide. Now, progressing towards another article, this is page number 1, the front page article. Supreme Court judges have said that the governors in India cannot indiscriminately, cannot indefinitely sit on bills passed by legislative assemblies. Nothing new, it has been in the news all through last 2 weeks. But it's a front page news, so we should revise it once. Everything started at the level of Tamil Nadu, when Tamil Nadu and other states like West Bengal, they started complaining to the central government, they started complaining to the Supreme Court that governors of our state are taking years and months to pass or take any decision on the bill that is given to them through the Legislative Assembly proposal. Now, this is bringing into controversy the center state relationships in Indian federalism. Majority of the states who are unhappy with the governor's behavior also happen to be opposition ruled states. Opposition ruled states also have said in the past that because the governor is an executive representative of the president, it acts as the agency of the central government. And the governor is not doing justice to his or her neutral position at the state level. They are just acting like agents of the central government. No wonder they take indefinite amount of time to pass any resolution that assembly gives them. It's a deliberate attempt at disturbing the functioning of the government at opposition ruled states. That's the complaint right now. The debate got a fresh light as Tamil Nadu and West Bengal are saying that this delaying or withholding of of the governor's decision is arbitrary. It is anti-constitutional and it is quite against the democratic independence of state legislatures. So today, a five-bench constitutional bench is examining the precedent reference regarding powers of the governor at the state level when it comes to dealing with the state bills. The Supreme Court, led by Chief Justice B.R. Gavai, Justice Vikram Nath, Justice P.S. Narasimha, have given some observations. One observation is that a governor has to be a neutral executive position. So, a governor has no right to indefinitely delay a bill passed by the assembly. Second, this bench of the senior judges also say that governors cannot impair, they cannot damage the smooth functioning of our constitution by withholding their assent for indefinite amount of time. Third, it says governors are not a royalty position. They are not a royal position that they can do what they feel like. They can act with discretion. They are a constitutional authority. They are bound by the constitution. There is no reason for them to sit over the bills for decades altogether. The bench also highlighted separation of powers. It said legislative bodies are the elected bodies of the people. The state legislatures represent the universal adult franchisee, the democracy of India, because people elect these MLAs. So, who is the governor? To delay the decisions taken by legislatures. A governor is a non elected body, it's a non elected position. How can it disturb laws passed by an elected body like Legislative Assembly? This is anti-democracy. Then it also highlights center-state relations, particularly in opposition-ruled states like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, West Bengal, Telangana. So which constitution articles does this entire story relate with? And which GS syllabus does this match to? So yes, this is GS paper 2 again, polity and governance. We are talking about the position and the power of state governors. Yes, we are talking about governors' authority to give decisions on bills passed by state assembly, article 200. Yes, absolutely, we are talking about Indian federalism, the center-state relationship. Okay, so that's the articles syllabus mapping. Now let's look at which constitutional articles are coming in the picture here. One is Article 200, Governor's permission to the bills. Under this article, when a bill is passed by state legislature, the governor has four choices. Either the government will give his permission to the bill and the bill becomes a law. Approval. Second is withholding the assent. The governor is not taking any decision, he is taking a veto power. A veto power means he is withholding his permission, approval. Third, the governor will return the bill to the state legislative assembly. We know this happens at both the center level and the state level. Only ordinary bills can be returned by the president at the center, governor at the state, for reconsideration by the legislatures. But when it comes to a money bill, Article 110, the same power does not apply. A money bill cannot be returned. It has to be given approval. But in case of an ordinary bill, a non-financial bill, yes, the governor has the power to return it to the assembly for making further any kind of changes or recommendations to be adopted. Then the unique option available to our governors, only to the governors of the state, is that they can also reserve that bill for president's reconsideration. If they feel that the bill is corresponding to matters related to national importance, national security, then in that case, the president can be a special intervening authority in that bill. These are the four options the governor has. Now, under Article 201, if the bill is reserved for presidential consideration, it is also the discretion of the president. The president can give his approval, or the president can also withhold her approval. She can also exercise the veto power. And the bill can then not become a law until president gives his or her approval. So these are certain constitutional questions that are coming to picture here. At the same time, it is the central government who has said that this is a completely executive matter. Let this be solved at the executive and the legislature level. It is nothing in which courts should interfere. But the Supreme Court says absolutely we should interfere. When it comes to center-state relation, When it comes to smooth functioning of federalism, every right has been given to the Supreme Court by the Constitution to interfere. So once again, it's like a debate between executive versus legislature versus judiciary. Look at the question. Consider the following statements about governor's power under Article 200 of the Constitution. 1. The governor may withhold assent, approval of the bill or reserve the bill for president consideration. 2. A money bill passed by the state legislature can be returned by the governor for reconsideration. And 3. The Constitution prescribes no upper limit right now for the governor to act on a bill presented for approval. Very easy question. Please pick out the valid response by choosing the codes given below. Now let me take you to the other article. This is page number 7, right after the editorial page. This article is quite interesting because it maps beautifully well with your GS paper 2 social justice. We are talking about the health, education and social deprivation among vulnerable communities like tribals, the Adivasi communities in India. Second, it is also GS paper 3 because we are talking about science, technology, health. We are referring to a disease called sickle cell anemia. It is a hereditary, it's an inherited disorder, a genetic disorder, and this is known as sickle cell anemia. A very well known, a very common disorder. At the same time, it is disproportionately impacting our tribal population, and there is nothing much we are able to do about it. So that's the article under consideration. What's the main issue here? The main issue is regarding the sickle cell anemia disease. Now, the word anemia typically refers to a deficiency of iron in the blood, a deficiency of hemoglobin in the blood. Hemoglobin, the key substance that carries oxygen to various organs through the blood. In this case, while the normal red blood cells are disc-shaped in colors, they are very flexible. So they can pass from thinnest nerves to thinnest capillaries and carry oxygen. But in the case of sickle cell anemia, the word sickle symbolizes a very abnormal shape of the red blood cells, RBCs. So unlike the flexible disc-shaped cells, which can pass through the thinnest of capillary because they are flexible, in sickle cell anemia, these RBCs become the shape of a sickle. Then they become rigid. They are hard. They are impossible to pass through thinner capillaries through different tissues, and hence they cannot carry oxygen to various organs. It leads to various chronic and sometimes lethal problems among the victims of this disorder. Yes, it's a genetic disorder, but it also means a life of chronic pain, chronic disability, sometimes organ failure. While it is not a treatable disorder, there are medications to manage the disease. Sometimes the treatment includes treatment of the organ that is being impacted because of the sickle shape of the cells. So let's see what the article says. Article is saying that unfortunately this disease, despite being of a genetic character, is more commonly found among the Adivasi and Dalit communities. This causes them a lifelong of physical pain, cognitive problems, fatigue, organ damage, and also it severely impacts their life expectancy. In March 2024, the government was trying to revise the 2016 Right of People with Disabilities Act, the RPWD Act. Very important, because after this, India had created a mission called Sugamya Bharat, if you remember. Sugamya Bharat was about creating an infrastructure in India which is more accessible to people with benchmark disabilities. Benchmark disabilities are recognized disabilities among people. Okay, so under Sugamya Bharat, we needed to create an India that is accessible to the people with benchmark disabilities. The Indian government, the Indian constitution is now also providing 4% reservation in government jobs and education centers of the government for people who have proved benchmark disabilities. So in 2024, the government was trying to revise this act, the rights of people with disabilities, and under this, the government agreed to recognize sickle cell anemia as a recognized benchmark disorder. That was a good step. It was about creating inclusivity to people with SCD, sickle cell disease. But the problem is that yes, they were recognized under the Act of Persons with Disabilities, but they were not given any reservation in the 4% quota reserved for people with benchmark disability. That's the problem. So the controversy today is that if you are giving them recognition as disabled people, but if you are not giving them any benefit or any quota under the RPWD Act of the 4%, then what is the point of recognizing them? Because you are not helping them in getting better jobs or easy access to education. Unfortunately, people with this disease are also minimally represented in jobs, education, and welfare schemes. So, therefore, they are experiencing a systemic exclusion in India. What is a benchmark disability? Under the benchmark disability logic, any person with a kind of disability in which he or she suffers 40% and more of that physical condition. For example, today the government recognizes 21 disorders under benchmark disabilities for people with PWDs. But across these 21 disorders, the person who will get the quota under PWD has to experience 40% or more of that particular disability. So the problem is that only those who have 40% and more of disability are getting acknowledged for 4% reservation under PWD quota. What about the others? Although the victims of sickle cell anemia experience a lifelong of pain and disability and organ failure, but they are not getting recognized because SCD does not qualify for a 40% mark under benchmark disability. But this is nothing but exclusion. Sometimes the symptoms of SCD can be very silent and difficult to explain. They are not visible directly, which also means the disease is very obscure in nature. Hence, the people who are victims of SCD, sickle cell disease, are required to go through elaborate testing, various examinations by medical boards, lifelong travel from one place to another to get these examinations and certifications, because these are mostly the Adivasi and the poor communities who are living in the fringes of villages or forests. For them, it's very difficult to travel again and again to get that kind of an appropriate medical care or certification. Given that these are remote communities, spatially excluded, geographically excluded, sometimes they are unable to prove documents of their 40% threshold of disability, which means although they are experiencing organ failures, cognitive neurological problems, they often also get sick because of blood transfusions that they need, but they are ignored. Because for some reason, in many communities, even sickle cell anemia is treated the way HIV is treated. For most uneducated people, a poor person contracting or developing SCD from childhood is as good as the person has HIV. It is stigmatized, it is looked down upon, people are removed from jobs, therefore, they cannot also continue formal schooling. The fact that they are poor also contributes to this misery. So, this is something we need to look into. Merely acknowledging people under the Act of Rights of Persons with Disability is not the solution. We have to think of getting them some reservation within the 4% quota limit for PWDs by making certification and proofs easy for them. The next article is page 12. It is an international affair news. So this belongs to IR, that is GS paper 2. Yes, we are talking about India Singapore relationship. You must have seen in the last 1 week we have spoken about India Japan, India Taiwan, India Philippines. We have spoken about India China, Russia. We have spoken about India South Korea. Today we are talking about India Singapore. Why? Because we all know the backdrop of this. India is trying to find new markets for Indian exporters. India is trying to find new trade partners because of the shock given by the US. So, yes, on the 60th anniversary of establishing diplomatic relationship with India, the Singaporean Prime Minister Lawrence Wong is visiting India. He's coming for the first time ever since US has imposed tariffs across the globe. Now, let's understand that India also is a little concerned here because Singapore and China also share a very deep link relationship. Chinese domination on Singapore is very, very high, whether it's linguistic, cultural, or whether it's trade related. So therefore, India has to see that in that backdrop also. But yes, both the countries are meeting, and the agenda is going to be a renewal of their ties under the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, the CSP, that was upgraded already in 2024. Once again, both the countries are trying to step this up. Under the relationship between India and Singapore, the countries are now trying to further create more bilateral trade relations. They are trying to become better investment partners. Now, let's understand, already India's largest trade and investment partner in the ASEAN region, the South Eastern Association nations, is Singapore. Already we have a fair volume of trade between us, but now India is only trying to expand that. So, ever since 1965, when Singapore achieved independence, since then, the relationship between India and Singapore has been only growing. It is a good sign. And also, let's understand, Singapore is a major source of foreign direct investment into India. They both are very correlated when it comes to investing in startups, investing in financial and tech collaborations. Today, after the US tariffs, India is just diversifying partners, and this meeting between the two leaders will only add to the goodwill between them. Maybe it further enhances trade relationships among each other. Strategically, also talking, this stronger relation with Singapore will be quite in line with India's Look East policy, Act East policy. After experiencing a kind of disillusionment with United States of America and yesterday from the UK's, as the Shaggy said, 66% carbon tax. That's too high for us. So now India is exploring once again Look East, Act East policy. Then India and Singapore also are key partners in a leading naval exercise called the Simbex exercise. Plus, they also have a great exchange of military training, arsenal, military knowledge, intelligence sharing. Culturally, there are majority of Indians who are living in Singapore. Now, 8 to 10% of entire Singapore population is that of Indian origin. So, diaspora is huge. India, Singapore also have signed a ministerial round conference, ISMR. It is based across 6 agreements. One is advanced manufacturing on a shared basis. Second is better connectivity, both physical through better visas, better flight connections, and digital integration. They both are talking about enhancing companies in the digitization, finance tech sector, fintech sector. In health and medicine, yes, more agreements are needed. Skill development and sustainability. To achieve a greener climate growth, both countries have promised more investment in the semiconductor sector. This comes in the light of another interesting news, India's semicon mission. We will talk about it next. The question here is, consider the following statements about India-Singapore relations. One, Singapore and India have upgraded their relationship to a comprehensive strategic partnership in 2024. Second, SIMBEX is a bilateral naval exercise between India and Singapore. Three, Singapore is a top source of foreign direct investment flows in India. Very easy question. You can try to answer by picking out the valid code from below, A, B, C, or D. So now comes the wonderful news from the semiconductor segment. Yesterday, I have also covered the Sanand region for you in Gujarat, becoming one such destination from where more manufacturing of semiconductors is now starting from India. India is completely in line with the semicon mission, and here is the proof. Shri Modi, India's Prime Minister, has received the first made in India bit chip known as Vikram 32 chip. It is an upgradation of the previous Vikram bit processors. Let's see what has happened in the news. Now, at the very spoken about, very popular Semicon India 2025 summit, the Prime Minister of India was presented by Made in India Vikram 32 bit. It's a chip that has been gifted to him from the Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav. Now, this chip is an upgraded version of the previous microprocessor chip called Vikram 16. So earlier it was Vikram 16. Today we have upgraded that into Vikram 32. Who has designed the chip? It has been designed by ISRO as well as Semiconductor Laboratory at Chandigarh. What is this Vikram 32 chip all about? The chip is about a new, more modernized version of the previous Vikram 16-bit processor. This chip will be used in advanced avionics, aviation and space engine sector in India. It has already been used from 2009. It will now be used at a larger scale. Now, this upgraded version is not only about better processing power, better backup, better reliability, but also it will help India provide more energy for further space missions as we tune in for the Gaganyaan mission very soon. Recently, we had done the Axiom 4 mission when Shubhanshu Shukla went to space as the first Indian astronaut to the International Space Station. That was just a preparatory exercise for the upcoming first human spacecraft, that is, the Gaganyaan to come. So, this technology will further improve energy sufficiency in the space domain. Now, semiconductor ecosystem in India. We all know that in 2021, India has started India's semiconductor mission ISM by an investment of rupees 76,000 crore rupees. Today, launched in 2021, we are further trying to only upgrade this mission by making India more self-sufficient, Atmanirbhar, when it comes to chip designing and chip manufacturing. The current status of 2025 shows that India already has 5 semiconductor units which are under construction. Just like I spoke to you about the Sanand in Gujarat. Then we have a pilot line within one such construction that is already completed. 2 more units are expected to start their production work very soon in just a few months. So India will now be able to achieve $1 trillion digital economy under the Viksit Bharat Mission 2020 2030. Okay, so that's important to remember. Now, the last page is the last news is page number 10 for today. Now, this is slightly controversial news here for you because this not only comes from GS paper 2 polity and governance, but also it has created a major controversy with regards to citizens in India who have been living in India for a very long time. But today they have to prove their documents of citizenship. Very recently, there was another controversy as a citizen from Bangladesh who produced Aadhaar card documents in front of the state government, but the state government said Aadhaar is not a sufficient proof of your citizenship. The issue is more concerned with places like Assam, where there is a law called Foreign Tribunal. This is under operation, which means anybody in Assam who is found to be non-Indian, who is found to be disqualified under the criteria of Indian citizenship. Now remember, this is part 2 of Indian Constitution, where we talk about details of citizenship. Who is an Indian citizen, how to acquire citizenship, how can you lose your citizenship. It also has detailed and elaborate provisions regarding people of Indian origin and the overseas citizen of India. Okay, so part 2 of the Constitution and the Citizenship Act is the sole authority which we follow when it comes to identifying who is a valid Indian citizen and who is a refugee, who is a foreigner. But state to state, the criteria are only catching up more controversy. So what is the news for today? Let me just explain it to you. If you remember, when the National Population Register and the Citizenship Amendment Act was being spoken about during 2020 to 2022, it led to a massive outcry in India. Not just India, but also foreign countries were blaming that India is trying to hit minorities. India is trying to throw out people at discretion. They also said that India, by making a decision that Hindu communities from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and nearby regions, Nepal, can come and find citizenship in India, they will be given the citizenship. People said it is very discriminatory in nature because India is now linking citizenship to religion. But on paper, India is a secular country. In our preamble, we know we are a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, which means secular, the ethos of being secular are paramount in India. Every religion is equal in the eyes of law. The government has clarified that we are not favoring any particular religion. We are being secular. This is the debate about Indian and not Indian. It has nothing to do with religion really. So the recent controversy is that the government has passed a new act called Immigration and Emigration Foreigners Act 2025. It was passed today. Immigration and Foreigners Act 2025. This will replace the existing obsolete 4 laws. What are the powers under this act? Now, the controversy is this only. The powers under this act are that foreign tribunals in India, which are as of now only working in the state of Assam. Now, there is a body called foreign tribunals, FTs. Today, this new act, Immigration and Foreigners Act 2025, has given much more power to foreign tribunals. But the problem is, right now, foreign tribunals are only found in the state of Assam. But under this new act that is passed today and yesterday, Immigration and Foreigners Act 2025, the government is saying foreign tribunals will now be expanded to all other states in India. People are worried that what will happen now, because under this new act more power is being given to foreign tribunal. They have been given the powers of a first class judicial magistrate, which means they can now issue arrest warrant, and they can also arrest a person if the person does not appear in front of the court on the given deadline by the FT. They can also determine that which person in India, being unable to prove his or her citizenship, should be locked up in the detention or holding center if they fail to prove that they are Indian citizens. Plus, now the foreign tribunals will also be applicable across other states in India, not only in Assam, like right now. Under this new act, there is also an employment restriction. People who are non-Indians, who have failed to prove their Indian citizenship, will not be given any jobs in sensitive strategic sectors like defense, space technology, nuclear technology, petroleum sector, as well as power, water supply, and human rights related organizations. Because then, if they are not Indians, they will not be given job here. So, what's the controversy? The controversy is that Bangladesh and Assam are already having a huge problem. Assam has long raised concerns about illegal immigrants from Bangladesh. To deal with this problem, long back in 1983, the Indian government had created Illegal Migrants Determination by Tribunals Act. But people said this is a very ruthless act. It is doing atrocity on minorities at discretion. Hence, it was removed in 2005. It was struck down. What was struck down? Please remember the IMDT Act, Illegal Migrants Determination by Tribunals Act. It was cancelled. Now, the Supreme Court, after cancelling this act, still continued to give power to foreign tribunals under the Foreign Citizens Act 1946 in Assam. So only in the state of Assam, the foreign tribunals still continue, powered by the Foreigners Act 1946. Once the debate about the National Register of Citizens in 2019 and 2020 caused a lot of controversy, the government excluded 19 lakh people. 19 lakh people were excluded in Assam, saying that they are not citizens. They have no proof of citizenship. And the number of foreign tribunals in Assam was increased and made to 100. Already that was causing a controversy about minority atrocity in India. Today, the controversy has only become stronger. As yesterday, the parliament has passed the new act, Immigration and Foreigners Act 2025. Under this act, now not only Assam, but foreign tribunals powered by the Foreigner Act 1946 will expand to the entire country. Now they will be made in every state. As of now, there is no operational foreign tribunal in any state. But under this new act of yesterday, which act? Immigration and Foreigners Act 2025, it will be done in every state. Now that is creating a problem because state governments are extremely concerned. Look at West Bengal. They are saying that if the government will allow foreign tribunals in every state, then the same riot and the same violence that has been happening in Assam will start happening in every known state. The central government is saying suspected illegal immigrants now will be removed from every state in India. They will have to produce their valid citizenship documents in front of the local courts. Let's see what happens. Immigration, according to state governments, is a union subject. But the states are the worst actors who are impacted in the process, especially states like Assam, Bengal, Tripura, who are sensitive because of the border closeness to foreign countries. They are the ones who will face the maximum repercussions. So let's see how the debate builds on. And here is the answer that I have placed for all these questions. Now, if you enjoyed the session, Do like, share, and subscribe Study IQ. And please remember, today is 3rd September, the last day for our end of season sale. So you can use the code SPLIVE and apply for any course. You can just buy any course for upcoming exam 2026, 2027 across GS. You will be given lots of, say, more than 1,000 plus free live and recorded sessions. CSAT and GS daily current affairs will be covered completely. Apart from that, you will also get exciting cash rewards. You can win scholarships up to 50%. So all these exciting offers you can avail by today. That's the last date by using the code SPLIVE. Thank you so much for being a part of this session. I'll see you tomorrow.